Good evening, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you for joining me again. I have some news to share with you. Today is February 21st, 2022. Thank you again for coming back. So I will start with two videos, one from Ethiopia, one from here on the situation, the tension on Ukraine, Russia, and Russia recognition of the separatist states. That is now creating a very tense situation between Russia and the United States, NATO and Russia, and all, uh, try to do something against Russia recognition of these separatist states. It's very to say recognizing and even attempting to send peacekeeping forces. So the Ethiopia, the video from Fana Broadcasting Service now, uh, broadcasting the selection and the approval of the 11 commissioners for the upcoming national dialogue. So this is just to show you, at least the face of the main players, the main commissioners. The first one and the deputy commissioner and the other individual swearing ceremony at the parliament. So let's listen to that one. Then I have another video next to that one on the situation on Russia and Ukraine. Then at the end of the reading material, I will have a couple of videos. Thank you again for joining me. Let's listen to the video coming from Ethiopia.
ምክር ቤት የሀገራዊ የምክክር ኮሚሽንን ለመምራት በእጩነት የቀረቡ እጩ ኮሚሽነሮችን ሹመት ዛሬ አጽድቋል። በህዝብ ከተጠቆሙ እጩዎች መካከል 11 ኮሚሽነሮችን ዛሬ ሲሾም በከፍተኛ ደረጃ የተቀመጠው መስፈርት አሟልተዋል ብሎ አካታች ብሔራዊ ውይይት ብሎም ለብሔራዊ መግባባት የኮሚሽኑ ስራ የሚጠበቅ ነው። በአእምሮ ሕክምና ዘርፍ ከ30 ዓመታት በላይ ያገለገሉት ከ30 በላይ ጥናታዊ ጽሑፎችን ያሳተሙት ብሔራዊ የኤችአይቪ ሴክሬታሪያት እንዲቋቋም ከፍተኛ ጥረት ያደረጉትና
this is the chairman of the commissioners, the head of the commissioner.
ሆነው የተሾሙት ፕሮፌሰር መስፍን በኮሚሽነርነት የተካተቱ አባላት ጥሩ ልምድ ያላቸው ናቸውና ወሳኙን ኃላፊነት እንወጣዋለን ብለዋል።
አስራንዳችንም ገና በሚገባ መተዋወቅ አለብን። እዚህ ውስጥ በተለይ አስሩ
Okay, this is the head of the commissioners, the national dialogue commissioners.
ልምድ ያላቸው ወጣቶች አሉ እና በእርግጥ በተወካይነቱ ላይ ኢትዮጵያ ከ86 ብሔረሰቦች በላይ ነው ያሉት። ስለዚህ 86ቱንም ወደዚህ ማምጣት ሳይሆን 86ቱና ከዛ በላይ ያሉትን ወደ መግባባት መድረኩ ማምጣት ስለሆነ ዋናው ትልቁ ስራ እንግዲህ በጋራ ስንገናኝና ስራ ስንከፋፈል የምናየውና የምናውቀው ይሆናል።
ሌላኛዋ በምክትል ሰብሳቢነት የተሾሙት ኮሚሽነር ደግሞ የተባበሩት መንግስታት ድርጅት ልዩ መልእክተኛ ሆነው ያገለገሉት የተለያዩ መንግስታዊ ያልሆኑ ዓለም አቀፍ ድርጅቶች ውስጥ የሰሩት ወይዘሮ ሂሩት ገብረስላሴ ናቸው። እሳቸው የተሰጠን ኃላፊነት እንደስከዛሬው
vice chair of the national dialogue commissioner
ልዩ ሁኔታ የምንመለከተው ነው ሲሉ ተናግረዋል።
ሌላ ዓለም ላይ ሰርቻለሁ። ሌላ ዓለም ላይ ያለኝን ዕውቀት ያለኝን ልምድ ተጠቅሜ ነው ኢትዮጵያ ላይ ሲሆን አገሬ ስለሆነ እንደሚሽንም ነው እንትንም አለው ስሜትም አለው ከፍተኛ ስሜት አለውና
so she's just talking about her
ከፍተኛ ስሜት
credential experience
ከሁላችንም ብዬ ነው ማስበው
how is she going to use on this commission
ትልቅ ክብርም ነው ግን የተሰጠን ለያንን ለዛ ብቁ ሆነን ለመገኘት ማድረግ ያለብንን ጥረት እናረጋለን ብዬ አምናለሁ።
በዚሁ ኮሚሽን በአባል ኮሚሽነርነት የተሾሙት ደግሞ በምክር ቤት አባልነት፣ በአምባሳደርነት፣ በሚኒስትርነት፣ በከፍተኛ አማካሪነት እንዲሁም በኢጋድ አስተባባሪነት የምናውቃቸውና በሱዳን ልዩ መልእክተኛና በአፍሪካ ቀንድ ሰፊ ልምድና እውቀት ያላቸው አምባሳደር መሐመድ ድሪር ናቸው። እሳቸው ኃላፊነቱ ከባድ ነው፣ ያም ሆኖ ግን የማንወጣው አይደለም ሲሉ ነው የተናገሩት።
በጣም ከባድ ኃላፊነት ነው፣ ነገር ግን የማይቻል ነው ብዬ አላምንም። ምክንያቱም ሀገራችን
Okay, this is the third important person in the commission. Ambassador Mohammed Dream is
የህዝብ ድጋፍ ያስፈልገዋል፣ የህዝቡ ትብብር ያስፈልገዋል።
he got experience and work as ambassador representing Ethiopia.
ቸር ነውና ሁልጊዜም ድጋፍ ያስፈልገናል። ይሄ በዛሬው ዕለት መሆኑ በግድባችን በተመረቀበት ማግስት መሆኑ ልዩ ድባብ ይሰጠኛል።
በእርግጥም ኮሚሽነሮቹ የገዘፈ ኃላፊነትን ዛሬ ከምክር ቤቱ ተቀብለዋል። ሁሉም እንደየመልከታቸው ለስኬቱ አስፈላጊ ነው ያሉት ላይ ትኩረት እንደሚያደርጉም አንስተዋል። ህዝቡ፣ ምሁራን፣ የሚመለከታቸው አካላት አብረዋቸው እንደሚሰሩም ተስፋ አድርገዋል።
ሀገርን በመገንባቱ ሂደት፣ ህዝብን ወደ መግባባት ወደ ማምጣቱ ሂደት እናንተ ሚዲያ ትልቅ ቦታ አላችሁ። በዚህ አጋጣሚ ፖለቲካ ፓርቲዎች፣ የሃይማኖት አባቶች፣ የሀገር ሽማግሌዎች፣ አባገዳዎች እና ሌሎችም ጉዳዩ የሚመለከታቸው ወጣቶች በተለይ በዚህ ስራ ላይ
he's talking about cooperation with traditional leaders, media, politicians for the success of this national dialogue.
ሰልችቶናል። በተለይ ሰላም ማጣቱና መጎዳቱ እና መብት በማስከበር ሂደቱ ላይ የደረሰብን ብዙ ጉዳዮች ስላሉ እነኛን በጋራ እንፈታለን ብዬ አስባለሁ።
የዚች ሀገር ችግር የህዝቦች ችግር አይደለም። የኤሊት ነኝ ተምሬያለሁ ባይ አንድ ቦታ ደርሻለሁ ባይ የኤሊቱ ችግር ስለሆነ ለኤሊቱ ነው ጥሪ ማቅረብ ያለብን። ኤሊቱ ላይ ነው በጣም መሰራት ያለበት። ህዝቡ መኖር ነው የሚፈልገው፣ በሰላም መኖር ነው የሚፈልገው። የህዝቡ ችግር አይደለም። ስለዚህ ማሸነፍ ቢኖርብን
Ethiopian elite. I don't think that's right. Ethiopians have questions and issues about what's going on in that country. So that's not only the elite issue.
Like the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G and more 5G coverage. Only at Metro.
We do want to turn back to the breaking news.
Okay, this is from the situation, the breaking news on Russia and recognizing
breakaway regions in eastern Ukraine as independent states. Now, this is a move that Western allies have warned Putin could use as a pretext for an invasion of Ukraine.
So he's signing now.
NBC's Matt Bodner in Moscow. Matt, walk us through this. What does this recognition mean for Russia and for Ukraine?
Thank you, Aaron. Well, that's a big question now. So one of the immediate questions is what do we mean when we recognize the independence of Luhansk or Donetsk? The rebel authorities, the rebel groups, do not control the entire kind of official areas that you would consider that on the map, on Ukraine's map, are Donetsk and Luhansk. So there's a question there. Are they just recognizing the parts that the rebels currently control, or is this now a justification to push the Ukrainian military back from the line of contact to essentially the formal boundaries of this region proper? And I do just want to back up for a minute to the actual signing ceremony itself. This came at the end of a very long, fiery speech. We talked about it earlier this hour from Vladimir Putin. Something truly incredible to see from him. Unlike anything we've seen previously, I've been covering him for a long time now, rooted in historical grievances. I'm not really sure there's a more key takeaway from this speech than saying, we have been kind of wondering when the case would be made to the Russian people for action in Ukraine. I think this speech was it. He goes through, he openly questions Ukrainian sovereignty, basically described it as a historical mistake that Russia's been taken advantage of for the past 30 years by the West. Grievance was laced throughout this speech, and it was really quite astonishing. And also, it's clear now that basically everything we saw today, to some extent, was choreographed. From the early reports this morning of a Ukrainian military incursion, or attempted incursion on Russia's borders proper, this led to statements made in the Security Council meeting that Vladimir Putin held earlier today. And now at the end of the speech, He stopped talking. It panned out to a room, and he was on one side of the room and the two separatist leaders in the other. This was all a big show. What he does now, we don't know, but he's made his case.
Okay. I have two more videos, then I'll come back to it at the end of the reading material. So there we go. So I'll come back to the other two videos, two other short videos. So that is the beginning. The first one, the Ethiopian Parliament approving the 11 commissioners for upcoming national dialogue. I have the 11 names, and political parties expressed their concern about this formation of the commission, but their concern is rejected. So now they are approved. These 11 commissioners. I have the names as announced already. Professor Masfin Araya this is the head of the chair of the commissioner, the chair of the commission. The second one, Mrs. Hirut Gabrasilase, vice chairwoman of the commission, and as already announced, Ambassador Mohammed Drill as also the third main important person. The rest, Dr. Tegeni Worku Getu, Mrs. Blaine Gabremedin, Dr. Jonas Adeye, Mr. Zagaye Asfaw, Mr. Melaku Wilde Mariam, also Dr. excuse me, Ato Malaku or Mr. Malaku Wilde Mariam, 10, Mr. Mulugeta Ago, and 11, Dr. Ambai Ogeto. So these are the 11. I repeat these 11 names because they are, just to know what is happening in that country. 11 commissioners approved by Ethiopian Parliament. Professor Masfin Araya, 1. Mrs. Hirut Gabrasilase, 2. These are vice chair and chair of the commissioners. 3. Dr. Tegene Worku Getu. 4. Ambassador Dr. Irorit Mohammed. 5. Mistress Blaine Gabramedin. 6. Dr. Jonas Adaye. 7. Mr. Zagaye Asfaw. 8. Mr. Melaku Weldemariam. 9. Ambassador Mohammed Dirir. This is the third important person. 10. Mr. Mulugeta Ago. And 11. Dr. Ambaye Ogeto. So these are the 11 commissioners assigned for upcoming national dialogue in Ethiopia. So we just, we will follow it. What is the end game? What is the final game? What they try to do? What is the objective? We don't know. We don't know. So do they bring peace, stability in that country? Do they have power to order something against Prosperity Party? Do they have power to take away the authority from Prosperity Party? The Prosperity Party controls the security, the finance, and all the power, international or national power. Do they have something to do with it? Do they have the power to fire the prime minister for creating bloodshed in that country? We don't know. We don't know. So we're just watching it. We'll follow it, and we'll report to you. Is they, as I say, do they just doing for the sake of conversation, for the sake of dialogue, or do they have the power to solve the problem created in that country? Do they have the power to end the bloodshed happening in northern part of Ethiopia and in Wallagga, Borana, in central part of Ethiopia? Do they have the power to end ongoing bloodshed in that country? It remains to be seen. So we'll follow it and we'll report to you. When it comes to the Russia, that is another way to start invasion. They are already recognized 2 regions in Ukraine. So that means the war started. The war started. The war between Russia and the Ukraine started. I said, now Putin agreed to send Russians into these recognized 2 territories as a peacekeeping operation. That means these 2 parts now taken from Ukraine, recognized as part of Russian government. That's it. The war started. The whole invasion didn't start, but they are taking 2 parts from Russia. So what the Europeans are doing, France is calling urgent United Nations Security Council meeting. UK announced already sanctioning, Russia. Probably tomorrow they will announce what they can do. This is also from United States. Statement by Press Secretary Jen Psaki on Russian announcement on eastern Ukraine. So this is a press release. We have anticipated a move like this from Russia and are ready to respond immediately. President Biden will soon issue an executive order that will prohibit new investment, trade, and financing by U.S. persons to from in the so-called DNR and LNR regions of Ukraine. This executive order will also provide authority to impose sanctions on any person determined to operate in those areas of Ukraine. The Department of State and the Treasury will have additional details shortly. We will also soon announce additional measures related to today's blatant violation of Russia's international commitments. To be clear, these measures are separate from and would be in addition to the swift and severe economic measures we have been preparing in coordination with allies and partners should Russia further invade Ukraine. We are continuing to closely consult with allies and partners, including Ukraine, on next steps and on Russia's ongoing escalation along the border with Ukraine. So this is a statement from White House on Russia recognizing the 2 separatist states as part of Russia and also sending Russian forces as a peacekeeping operation into these areas. So technically the war started, the war between Russia and the Ukraine. So what the others do, we don't know. But we know now the United States is ready to sign an executive order sanctioning anybody conducting business between these 2 recognized states and with the United States, and also they're going to do something with European alliance. And as I said, France already called urgent meeting on the situation, urgent United Nations Security Council meeting. What they do, nothing can happen because China and Russia has a veto power over there. Nothing can happen. The only thing is from European Union and the United States. That's it. Thank you again. Let's read the other news. This one is 10 members of one family killed in heavy machine gun attack in Afar state. You know, the war is still going on in that region between TDF and other forces in Afar region. Humo Ibrahim, a president of the Afar region bordering Tigray, where the ongoing fighting in northern Ethiopia has escalated, is deeply saddened by the loss of his wife and 5 children in recent military attack. Residents and volunteers from the area told BBC Amharic that 10 members of a single family were killed and 13 others were injured in a heavy gun battle on Tuesday night, 15 February. Humo and his 10 family who were killed in the attack were living in Ada, a small town in the Afar regional state. The BBC Amharic quoted Yasin Kadir, a close relative of Humo and a resident of Semera, the capital of Afar region, that the town was located 15 kilometers from Barhele. He also said that all relatives of the victim's family were in deep mourning. It was indicated that among the family members fleeing the attack were 5 children, a mother and a grandmother, a mother's brother, and a niece. Humos had previously been displaced and was able to save his family. The father, who lost his entire family, is in a state of shock. He is neither eating nor being able to cope with the sudden catastrophe. Religious leaders are comforting him, Yasin said. According to the media, efforts made to contact Homo Ibrahim remained futile, and his relatives say he is not speaking to anyone because of his grief. It was on the next day he was informed of the deaths of the family members, as heavy fighting was still going on in the area and there was no telephone or transportation service. According to Yasin, the information about the dead came from the wounded and displaced, while 13 others injured in the attack are being treated at Dubiti Hospital. He described the area as a war zone, adding that the attack happened when the victims and other residents were fleeing the fighting on their way from Berhele to a desert area called Dodam. The attack took place about 5 kilometers from the town of Ada, just a short distance from a river known as Ala. Witnesses say it around a well-known hot spring Godaya located between Tigray and Afar, and where people go to healing. The attack may have taken place while they were resting, Yasin speculates. It was carried out with heavy artillery fire. Some of the wounded lost their limbs, he said, adding that the victims were buried at the scene. After the breakout of the war in Tigray and the subsequent spread of conflict to the Afar and Amhara regions, it seemed to have subsided for a while, but hostilities have been ongoing for some time in the areas bordering Afar and Tigray. Heavy weapon assisted fighting is taking place in the Afar region at the moment, with regional and federal authorities blaming the TPLF forces for the attacks. The Afar regional state said in a statement released 2 weeks ago that the aim of Tigrayan forces' attack was to seize control of the Djibouti corridor by capturing Sardo. The report recalled that the Tigrayan forces had taken control of Abala, Magale, Erbeti, Koneba, and Berhale Woredas. Officials in the Afar region told the media a week ago that more than 350,000 people had been displaced by the fighting in the region. According to Sadak, a volunteer who is assisting and coordinating residents and displaced people in the war zones, the war is still intensifying and the number of displaced people is increasing. Those in Afdera and Kuri Woredas are able to get out, and those who couldn't get out are still in the war zone, said the volunteer. The volunteer also said that there were mothers in the desert who had given birth without help, and that women, including infants, were in dire circumstances. Tigrayan authorities had previously admitted entering parts of Afar and controlled certain areas in what they said was a response to repeated attacks by Afar Special Forces and Eritrean Army. Residents said the fighting in Afar state did not involve the Federal Army and it was between Afar Special Forces and the Tigrayan forces. Witnesses said due to firepower imbalances, heavy attacks were meted out of the people. The federal government has not yet commented on the war in the Afar region. Earlier, the National Security Council said it would take necessary action against the attacks from the TPLF. Credit Addis Standard. Ethiopia launches power production from GERD. Ethiopian officially launched power generation from the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, also known as GERD, 11 years after starting its construction. The power production from the hydropower dam was officially launched by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed on Sunday morning. Only one of the 13 turbines of the giant dam for the moment is operating. It generates 375 megawatt according to the official Ethiopian news agency. The GERD full power capacity is 5,150 megawatt. From now on, there will be nothing that will stop Ethiopia, Abiy said. We just started generating power, but that does not mean the project is completed, said Kifle Horo, the dam's project manager. He added that it would reach its full capacity within 2.5 to 3 years. Besides the Prime Minister, the inauguration was attended by former Prime Minister Hailemariam Desalegn, former President Mulatu Teshome, and Speaker of the House of Federation Agenyo Teshagar, Speaker of House of People's Representative Tagase Chafo. The GERD has been a source of tension between the three Repartian countries. While Egypt fears for its share of water, Sudan wants a technical deal to protect its small dam on the Blue Nile. The political crisis in Sudan, triggered by the coup of October 25, 2021, contributed to the delay in the resumption of trilateral talks. Credit Sudan Tribune. This is from Daily News Egypt. Egypt French militaries conduct Ramesses 2022 naval and air drill. The training comes in light of the growing military cooperation between the Egyptian and the French armed forces. The Egyptian and the French armed forces launched Remas's 2022 joint naval and air drill that will last for several days in Egypt, according to a statement from Egyptian military spokesperson Gharib Abdul Hafiz on Monday. Abdul Hafiz explained that the French side is participating in the training with Charles de Gaulle helicopter carrier, an accompanying combat group, and a number of Rafale fighter jets. As for the Egyptian side, it is participating with a naval formation of frigates, missile launchers, and the units of the Egyptian Naval Special Forces, in addition to a number of fighter jets, F-60s, Rafale, and MiG-29s to be specific. The training will include the implementation of many activities that will train the naval and air forces of both countries on planning and managing joint combat actions, which contributes to unifying operational concepts, refining the skills of the force of both countries, exchanging combat and field experiences, and preparing to carry out any joint tasks under various circumstances. Abdul Hafiz said that the drill comes as part of the growing relations of partnership and the military cooperation between the Egyptian and French armed forces to enhance their ability to face challenges in the region and secure vital objectives in the Mediterranean Sea. So that is credit Egypt Daily News. So Ethiopia should be bothered by this cooperation and the military drill between French and Egyptian military. Tehran cites significant progress in Vienna nuclear talks. Iran on Monday cited significant progress in talks with world power in Vienna on reviving the 2015 nuclear deal. Anadu news agency reports. Foreign Minister spokesman Saeed Khatibzadeh said Tehran insists on lifting all sanctions that contradict the nuclear deal. The spokesman, however, did not provide any details about the nature of the progress in the talks. Negotiations are underway in Vienna between delegations from Russia, China, Germany, France, the United Kingdom, and Iran. Washington is indirectly involved in the talks. So that is about Iran nuclear deal. I hope it will be successful for the sake of global stability. I hope they will find out something to settle this issue. Trump pulled out from the signed deal. Now Biden wants to go back to that deal and settle the issue. So we are watching it too. That's also a very serious one. Church leaders urge Israel to halt Jerusalem land confiscation. Leaders of Jerusalem churches on Monday warned of an Israeli plan to confiscate church-owned lands in the occupied city. In a letter directed to Israeli Environmental Protection Minister Tamar Zandberg, dated 18 February, the church leader said there is a plan to expand an Israeli park onto the Olive Mount in East Jerusalem and called for halting it. The letter was signed by Greek Orthodox Patriarch of Jerusalem, Theophilus III, the Catholic Church cautions of the Holy Land, Francisco Patton, and Armenian Patriarch of Jerusalem, Noran Manogian. The church leaders said the Olive Mount is one of the sacred places in Christianity which hosts Christian holy sites visited by millions of Christians worldwide. Copies of the letter were also sent to the consuls general of Turkey, France, Italy, Greece, Spain, and Sweden in Jerusalem. Last year, the heads of churches protested attempt by Israeli settler groups to seize control of church properties in occupied East Jerusalem. Credit Middle East Monitor. So that is church leaders warning Israel not to confiscate the church land. So do Israel listen to it and stop grabbing the land, the church land? We'll see. So that's the end of the reading material. And let's come back to the two short videos and end today's presentation. Thank you again. There we go. One is about, I think, Mali, and one is about South Africa. There we go. There we go.
Mali's lawmakers voted on Monday a plan allowing the transitional government headed by Colonel Assimi Goïta to rule for up to 5 years. In line with the earlier junta proposal, the lawmakers adopted the new transition chart with 120 of Mali's 121-seat interim parliament. The agenda of this extraordinary meeting focused exclusively on the examination of the draft law on the revision of the transition charter that the members of the National Transition Council have just adopted almost unanimously.
Somebody's calling.
The new charter comes after regional sanctions hit the country in January over delayed elections. This delay contributed to worsen an already souring relation with France, which eventually decided to withdraw troops from Mali. It is a feeling of joy and pride when the occupying forces leave your territory. You can only rejoice and congratulate the patriotic courage of the authorities, especially the patriotic president, the liberator, Assimi Goïta. When the Balkan forces withdraw, it is the beginning of the end of the war in Mali, and when the occupying forces leave, it is the beginning of the end of the war in Mali. If the new charter does not mention on what date a future presidential election might be held, it says serving President Colonel Goïta will not be allowed to participate in the next elections. After staging a coup in August 2020, Mali's rulers initially promised to stage a vote in February 2022.
This incredible dental device is giving peace of mind for just $100. Dentists are calling it the next best thing to an in-office visit. Its high-tech tartar scraper spins up to 12,000 vibrations per minute, destroying dental calculus.
About 2,000 people took to the
This is
streets
the last
in
video.
South Africa to
South
demonstrate
African
against illegal
protesters
migrant
against
workers in
immigration
Cape
to
Town
South
as
Africa.
part of Operation Dudula.
Anti-immigration
Operation Dudula
protest.
in Zulu, which means drive back, has gained traction in a sign of growing anti-migrant sentiment in South Africa, which has been plagued by record unemployment figures worsened by COVID.
Our space is occupied by illegal foreigners who happen to be selling drugs on the street. Most of all, they are taking a very simple job that should be done by poor South Africans that does not need any skill.
With unemployment at 35% and rising up to 65% among youth, competition for jobs has spawned resentment among some jobless South Africans. In the past, xenophobic protests have morphed into violence. Attacks against foreigners left at least 62 people dead in 2008, while another 7 were killed in a similar unrest in 2015.
Okay, So as you heard, is the protesters in South Africa accusing migrants occupying the streets and selling drugs. I don't think that's the right one. That's hateful of those desperate people coming to South Africa to seek shelter and to get the opportunity to conduct business. So I don't think they are coming there to sell drugs. So this is an excuse used against migrant workers in South Africa. So at least now, it's okay, peaceful demonstration. It's we should appreciate, because in the past, these individuals and others, South Africans are brutal, brutal. They are very cruel against their own Africans. Ethiopians also suffer under this anti-immigration movement in South Africa. They burned their property, killed them, they were out of control. So for now, we have to watch it, and the authorities in South Africa, they should, watch these protesters very carefully, so they will not create big damage on African brothers. So at least they allow them peaceful protest. That's okay. Express their grievances against migrant workers by accusing them, selling drugs. I don't think that's the right one, but they hate them. So when you hate something, you need to find dirt on them, bring dirt, and say something bad. That's you can see. So that's all I have for today. And thank you. I will be back with other news and other updates. Stay safe, and so long, everyone.